welcome everyone to the webinar series on competency for evaluators. So this is the fifth webinar in our webinar series. So the topic for this webinar is exploring competency domains in program management. And this is organized by the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association with Interregional Initiative for Professionalization Evaluation and its WOPE members. So let me introduce myself quickly. My name is Randhika Dimel, and I'm a board member of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association, and I'm also co-founder and co-leader of Evaluate Sri Lanka and Evaluate Asia. Before we get started, a bit of the ground rules. Everyone, please keep your microphones muted and your video feed disabled at all times. And also during the presentation, please put all your questions on the chat. And during the Q&A session, I will bring up the questions to ask from the speaker. And if you have any other concern, you can email over here at irite.info@gmail.com, aps.secretariat@gmail.com. Okay, to get started, let me welcome Mr. Samandar Mahamodi. He's the Vice President of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, and also he's the founder and chairman of the Board of Directors for Afghan Evaluation Society. Over to you, Samandar. You're muted. You're muted.
Good evening, everyone. Good morning, colleagues. I welcome all of you on behalf of the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association and the Interregional Initiative for Professionalization of Evaluation, or RIIP, to the fifth webinar on competencies for evaluators. It's very important that we have clear understanding of the different competencies for evaluators. Understanding, assessing, and recognizing competencies for evaluators are essential to the professionalization journey of evaluation and to achieving the full potential of evaluation profession to tackle the great challenges of today and to accelerating progress towards achieving the SDGs. At today's webinar, we will explore and learn more about competencies for evaluators as part of our mission to professionalizing evaluation in the region and beyond. I wish all of you a great webinar. Over to you, our moderator, Mr. Randhika. Thank you.
Thank you, Samandar, for your opening remarks. Next slide. Okay, now let's get started with our webinar for today. And our speaker for our webinar series is Mr. Ruchira Paranavitwana. He has 26 years of experience in quality and HR in manufacturing, private sector, and in development sector. And currently he's working in the capacity of a senior quality assurance manager. Also, he's a certified master trainer who actively contributes to build competency models. And also he's a team leader of the professionalization of evaluation in the Asia Pacific Regional Evaluation Strategy Formulation. And he's also a member of IRITE. Over to you, Mr. Ruchira.
Hello, everyone. Randhika, I hope my voice is clear to everybody.
Yeah, we can hear you well. Thank you.
Okay, super. Hello, everyone, and a warm welcome to all of you who are joining for the fifth of the 8 webinar series on competencies for evaluators. And let me apologize first because there has been a technical issue on my side, so that's why we got a little bit delayed to start the proceedings. And many thanks for Samandar and Randhika for setting the tone and creating conducive learning atmosphere to start the presentation flow. So hope you all stay safe. The topic for today is exploring the competency domains, program management. Before we start, for the benefit of the participants who are joining for the first time for this webinar series, and also for the others for refreshment purpose, let me quickly take you through the overall learning objectives of the webinar series. Understand the need for professionalization of evaluation with due recognition for competency as a strategic pillar of success. We have discussed that there are other strategic pillars like compliance or governance, capacity, and demand. And understand the importance of competencies for evaluators, and understand the competency framework, product and process features, and various use. So this webinar series is based on the competencies of evaluators, a product that has been designed and developed under the Asia Pacific Regional Evaluation Strategy with the sponsorship of UNFPA Asia Pacific Evaluation Office. The product is being finalized for publication. And this entire webinar series is based on that. And last, but the most important is for all of us to understand what these competencies are, and then identify the competency gaps, bridge them, and continuously sharpening and enhancing them with simple development plans. Next slide. Okay, the topic for today, as I explained, is the program management. I always love to start with a quote. This is again a pitch of a quote on a project management and program management. It's from Mr. G. Rees, a trailblazer, thought leader, and iconic figure of the project profession from UK, honorary member of the Association of Project Managers. And project management is like juggling three balls: time, cost, and quality. We all know these are very relevant to us. And program management is like a trip of circus performance standing in a cycle, each juggling three balls and swapping balls from time to time. So you can visualize the mental picture. So we all know it's a balancing act, and also that we need to orchestrate it nicely to get the final results at the end of the day. So for this, during this webinar series, please allow me to use both project management and program management interchangeably. And we have used the term we have used here for the competency domains is program management, but sometimes I will also call project management. Don't worry about the terms. The idea is we need to have project management competencies in our evaluation practice. So our idea was to bring, we know that we are attached to projects, and sometimes as evaluators you will be working on multiple projects. So that we want to bring that element of coordination, flexibility, and also the integration into the competency management. That's why we choose the words program management. Next slide. Okay, the agenda for today is expectation of evaluation. We are looking at this picture in each and every webinar, and to understand where our efforts would fit into the equation, and competency framework in a nutshell, and competency domain, program management, intro, and performance criteria, because every competency domain has to be linked or has to be attached to a clear performance criteria for the evaluation practice. And we will also look at work conditions and challenges. It's not, we have to work with pressing conditions in demonstrating the competencies. And then we will deep dive, go to the nitty-gritties of competency by understanding them in terms of competencies with indicative behaviors. We'll go into the granular level of the competency domain, and then competency building tips, and finally learning reflection with some practical examples. We will start that discussion. It's actually the starting of Q&A, and learning journey continues. Next slide. So this is the slide that we use. We make it a point to look at. Able evaluators are not enough. We need capable evaluators. And again, just capable evaluators is also not
Ruchira? Ruchira, are you there? Production team, can you check, please?
He's there.
Okay.
I think he's muted. Ruchira, you are
Ruchira,
muted.
you're muted.
okay. Sorry.
Right, yeah, okay. Now
Okay.
it's fine.
Okay, so we need the able evaluators are not enough. We need the capable evaluators, and that just capability is also not enough. We need competencies, and competency with the competent evaluators with the expertise and exposure, working with different contexts, different projects, different subjects, will become qualified evaluators, and they will deliver credible, reliable, and also useful evaluations. So altogether, we can tag them as quality evaluation. And with that input, we'll start the contribution cycle. So the quality evaluation will be used by stakeholders, and that will improve policies, organizations, programs, and ultimately that will improve the quality of life for the communities that we serve. Next slide. Competency framework in a nutshell. This is the product that I mentioned, and in this covered three of them already, and we have program management, which is the topic for today, and we will also have interpersonal competencies. We will discuss about the softer skills, and then personal and professional development, that is learning and growth competency domain. So altogether, if I give you the high level numbers, we have 6 competency domains, 43 competencies under those domains. And to explain those competencies, we also have 208 indicative behaviors in this work. So for today, we will discuss 8 competencies, and under that we have 52 indicative behaviors. Next slide. Sorry. So let me start with some thoughts about how the other evaluation alliances who have actually discovered some competencies and came up with good products, and those products have been a solid base for us for our work. And so there can be a question whether it is evaluation management, whether it is management or evaluation management or project management or program management. So let me give you some thoughts, how the other evaluation alliances have looked at the management part. So if you take the Canadian Evaluation Society, they have a separate competency domains. They call it management practice, but mainly talk about project management skills. And if you take UNIC, they have management skills, again a separate competency domain, I would say. And New Zealand Evaluation Association, they also came up with the competency framework. They call it evaluation project management. And IDEAS, they also have separate, I would say, a domain or a competency area. They call it managing the evaluation. And American Evaluation Association, they straight away call it project management. And if you talk about European Evaluation Society work, and they came up with, they call it a capabilities framework for evaluators. And they talk about, they don't have a separate domain, but they talk about resource and skill management under professional practice. And if you take the UKES, the UK Evaluation Society, they also states as the ability to manage and deliver evaluation under professional practice. So no worries whether it is management or evaluation management or project management or program management. We have mentioned the reasons why we have tagged these as program management. The common thread, in fact, these are different schools are taught, but they are similar in different ways. So the common thread is management. You need to have management aspect. Next slide. So let's look at the competency domain. Under this competency domain, we'll be talking about leading and managing evaluation. These are competency areas, right? We will be looking at the precise competency statements later. And we also be looking at scope management, resource management, relationship management. And we have thought to include meeting management as well, because meeting management, we know there is a lot of loads and loads of exchange of ideas through emails, but meeting is a platform that we use to exchange ideas, build on the ideas. Very important, whether it is done in a virtual setup or F2F, the face-to-face meeting is very important. So we thought that we would mention it as a separate competency. And progress reviewing and reporting. And we have included two competencies. We thought this is something that the other competency we have not seen exactly as is in other competency domains. So we call it continuous improvement. Now this continuous improvement competency area comes with the problem solving, analytical thinking aspect of the evaluator. So we think it's very important. Today the leaders have to resolve problems than anything. It's all about how you solve problems effectively, and then that will actually trigger the upward improvement cycle. So you go on improve your product processes to get a better outcome. And the flexibility and alertness, as I mentioned, is the program essence of the competency area, where we look at the integration and handling with multiple projects. So essential competencies to demonstrate the highest level of program management skills in the evaluation field of evaluation is the description. In a exactly
Ruchira, you're breaking up. Ruchira.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Next slide, please. All right, so let's look at the performance criteria. And when we talk about program management, evaluator competencies focus on application of sound project management or program management skills throughout the evaluation program, and also capacity to harness the efforts of others across the organization to ensure key deadlines are achieved, project objectives are delivered on time within budgetary allocations, and also demonstrating the capability to effectively manage a range of diverse and complex projects through integrated approach. So that is the performance criteria that we can think of, that includes everything when we talk about program management. Next slide. So let's look at some of the work conditions and challenges when we talk about project management skills. A poor project planning and preparation is one of the challenges we have. An inadequate project program management skills, a lack of accountability, and lack of stakeholder involvement, maybe limited engagement, and poor, inconsistent project management discipline, and duplication of efforts. And scope creep is a common term used in project management. That means your scope gets changed. Continuous or uncontrolled growth in a project scope at any point of time after commencing, after the kickoff of the project. And lack of communication and coordination, lack of clear goals and success criteria, and maybe budgeting issues, inadequate risk management, risk-based thinking, unrealistic deadlines, sometimes not serious about meeting deadlines, and maybe defective project design, become a victim of the defective project design, inadequate project execution, operation, and supervision, maybe deficiencies in distributions, and also the evaluation of project results and follow-up actions. So those will give some indicative conditions and challenges that you have to face as evaluators when managing your evaluations, and is only indicative, that is not exhausted. So there are a lot of things that will come to your mind when we deal with when you manage evaluation as a part of a big project. And I invite you to share not only the questions, but if there are any ideas, thoughts, or your experiences or comments that come to your mind. So just share it through the chat box. That will enrich the learning experience. Next slide. Okay, so we'll start with the competencies with indicative behaviors. First, we'll start with leading and managing the evaluation. The competencies demonstrates skills in necessary leading and managing the evaluation programs. And under that, we have the established roadmap, develops key milestones, timelines, and metrics to navigate evaluation projects, and takes accountability for all project stakeholders for delivering expectations, milestones, and performance throughout the project, demonstrates skills and spirit to keep members focused on the goals, objectives, tasks, and problems, and creates commitment in others with maturity and integrity, attains emerging concerns, priorities, and realities of the evaluation, and address challenges associated with them, and manages conflicts if required. In fact, this managing conflict has been discussed before also, and we will be discussing in detail under interpersonal competence, and exhibits facilitation and coaching skills, models the way you are the leader in different times. So live and leads by example, and develops management framework that includes regular reviews. So management framework is a framework. We all know that we have different nested reviews in conducting our evaluation. So have them properly and have them clearly defined. Next slide. Scope management demonstrate effective program scope management skills. Involves the strategic planning process, establishes, manages and monitors contractual agreement that include project management and dispute resolution, confirms the purpose, organizes information of the target programs and formulates evaluation plans, and defines job parameters within the scope of the evaluation, and assign priorities, multiple tasks to complete important activities, and identify fits and gaps and attends practical issues in evaluation feasibility and also your evaluation action plan, and practices operational planning during implementation of action plan, and practices the operational controls in realization of evaluation work plan by dealing with unforeseen events without compromising the time frame and also your evaluation method. Hello.
Yeah,
Next
go
slide,
ahead,
please.
Mr. Ruchira.
Okay. Resource management demonstrate effective resource management skills. Considers tactical consideration with managing the time allocated by the schedules. So as evaluators, you have a tactical plan working for you for execute your evaluation action plan. But we all know that everything does not move smoothly as we plan. There are a lot of challenges, issues, and you identify gaps, you take actions. And whenever something is repeated, then you have to look at your tactical plan, whether your tactics are have to be looked at again to make some changes, and develops evaluation budgets and ensures budget control and completion of tasks without compromising time and quality of the project, assigns appropriate levels and use of staffing and manpower allocation. That is also one of the things that you have to do, kind of supervisory part in managing your manpower, ensures cost-effective use of resources, and acts with cost avoidance mindset in controlling the evaluation budget, and works with service providers to ensure procurement and logistics needs are fulfilled on time to facilitate the project. So there can be areas or needs that you have to look at the external service providers on logistics needs. Next slide. Relationship management. Demonstrates effective coordination and relationship management skills, enables momentum and progress to active engagement with the members on task, explores ways to effectively delegate tasks and reassign them if required, and creates optimal condition for delegation, recognize the strengths of each team member when assigning responsibilities, and if you got to sometimes manage the intra-team relationships. That is important. Helps the team members to assume responsibility and allow them to grow and develop during the evaluation process, and facilitate decision-making process about the order of events consistent with progress, and seek additional or specialized service if required from the subject matter experts on some particular areas. If you need the support of subject matter experts or lead subject matter experts when necessary, you have to take it in that way at the right time. And then you also become usually naturally a mentor for young and emerging evaluators by facilitating experiential learning and also improvement within the process. Next slide. Meeting management, I do not want to dwell much on this, but we understand the foundation of good teamwork, the purpose, the targets, roles, processes, relationships, and characteristics, and plan meetings and keep them productive through clear purpose, agenda, action list, and the attendance. And you also can have a team code of conduct if necessary, and encourages positive participation, stimulate open discussion, encourages diverse viewpoints, and transform disagreement into something positive, and support consensus building. The idea is to come to a consensus on a particular matter, even if we have different controversial points of views, and maintains meeting minutes, records that capture essential information and remind team members what happened during a meeting, including the key decisions made, and follows up action plan completion on a regular basis, and focus on both action completion and action effectiveness. So when you follow up your actions, not only action completion, sometimes the actions might be completed on time according to the target date, but effectiveness of the action is also important. Sometimes you take an action on time, but action is not effective. So you need to have a little bit to fix that to make it effective. Next slide. Progress review and reporting reports project progress to all concerned. Keep the client and other stakeholders informed about the progress at regular intervals. That is something that you do on a regular basis, I know. And conducts clients and other stakeholders progress review meetings as per the agreed management framework. So you have frequencies, and you have to organize, conducts the reviews, and communicates and negotiate changes to the scope of the evaluation if necessary, and adheres to good change control practices in dealing with major change, and feasibility, stakeholder impact assessment, and those things have to be taken care of. We have discussed this in depth during the contextual analysis, and prepares progress reports with due consideration to the time and goals, tasks, and responding to the needs and expectation of the target audience. Next slide. And continuous improvement. This is something that I mentioned, that we want to bring this competency into the competency framework, demonstrate strong continuous improvement skills. So under that, attends on the event problem solving to provide containment actions, and use a structured problem solving resolution process with the team for a more complex problem. So as evaluators, what we think is adhering to proper problem solving process. How you solve problems is very important, and you manage, you solve a lot of problems on the when something happens, then you make it a point to solve it at the point of origin. But there are complex problems that you need to take time, you need to have meetings, discussions to solve them, and you sometimes have to look at the causes closely, and makes decision on problem resolution, and possesses excellent analytical skills. So when you resolve problems and also you want to make improvements, you need to have that analytical mindset set. How you not really looking at the problems through a kind of programmed frame, and looking them through a fresh pair of eyes, different angles, getting viewpoints, maybe looking at more and more evidence. So there are practices that you need to sharpen in continuous improvement. And finally, the flexibility and alertness. That is why we talk about program management here. and work skillfully in a fast-paced environment. Sometimes you are dealing with a few evaluations at the same time. So all people are screaming for results, and you are really geared up to meet the deadlines, different deadlines. So in that case, you need to have a good coordination and also the integration, and have to have some practice in handling multiple project environments and in that challenging environment. So managers multiple project plans concurrently and prioritize tasks and appropriately under changing conditions, challenging conditions, and you need to show resilience and coping capability to work under pressure in that scenario. And you, of course, you need to pay a lot of attention to detail. Next slide. So let's look at some of the competency building tips and understand program management as a competency, and do a fit gap analysis and develop an improvement plan. When you identified, okay, these are the competencies that I need to improve, build and enhance, then you can have a simple development plan to use to inch up your competency level and tap into your network of subject matter experts who have done a lot of evaluation, who are seasoned evaluation professionals, and who have worked in different contexts, maybe different countries, different challenging environments, and use that resource and ask them for any tips that they can share. And you can also research past projects in organizations. If you are working for an organization in their knowledge database, you can see what has happened previously, and you can master the program, project tools and techniques. Good time management is very important. Practice makes purpose. So roll up your sleeves and start planning you have to do it not as a desk job, but to go to the field sometimes. And firm, consistent management framework with Rusky. Rusky is something that in the private sector we use more often, and that has given a lot of good results. So Rusky stand for responsibility, accountability, support, consult and inform. So for a process, what we do in the private sector, particularly in the automobile private sector where I am working, in which I am working, we have a process, and then we list out all the activities, and then for each and every activity we complete this Rusky. Who takes the responsibility, who is accountable, who has to support, who needs to be consulted, and who needs to inform. So that is, in a way, is a very clear responsibility table. So act with solid lesson learned mindset, because you need to use the lessons learned and practice good meeting management practices and practice communication within project management. So meet up with new people and love to start loving working with different cultures, different people, ask questions when something is not clear, and listen actively, and spend sometimes a good time, I must say, on organization your stuff, and throw procrastination away, and focus problem solving mindset approach is super important, I would say. Next slide. Okay, the time is up for me for just a while. The laughter therapy, I have selected few. In fact, these also shows these cartoons in a way, indirect way, shows some gaps and lapses in management, particularly the project management. So first one is you have the task, you have database design, and then you talk about something, you talk about world peace, you talk about meeting Russell Crowe. That is the scope creep is all about. And the picture on your right side with the tree and the swing is very common in the private sector. I want to bring some things from the private sector also for your benefit. It's a very common thing about design and developing the product. So first one is what the customer explained, and the second one the project leader understand, and the third one how it is designed, and the fourth one is what has been the promise to the customers, or in our case to the communities or the beneficiaries, and what marketing is advertised, and finally what actually the customer wants. So you can see this happens to projects more often, and you can see the lapses and in coordination and communication. And next one, somebody asked, we'll need a risk analysis on this project before I can approve it. So it starts with the risks. All of these are inefficiencies, indecisiveness, over-analysis, cluelessness, micromanagement. So finally he says, I don't understand these risks. So that is the 36 one. So he might have explained 35 already. And in a way, in a humorous way, this shows the internal noises that you can expect when you work in a project. And you can see it all began with trying to measure project outcomes. So two sorry figures, everything was okay till you measure the project outcome. And the next one is not only for project management, it's for the entire evaluation practice. Our manager is young enough to have fresh new ideas, and I'm old enough to have seen all of them before. So that is again a common phenomena. We are working with different generations. We have Ys, we have millennials, and we also have centennials who are actually the newest generation who are just ready to come to the country workforce. Next slide. So highest program management is all about leading and managing synergetic execution of tasks and collaborative partnerships with people for long-lasting results. Next slide. Okay, sorry, I took a little bit of time, excess time, and now it is a time for learning reflections. So for this, we have Asela on the call. Asela is the president of APEA, Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, and SLEVA, and who is joining for each and every webinar to support us, giving its inputs and insights. And in fact, this 8 webinar series also is initiation. So I invite Asela to kindly support to explain some this scenario analysis related to program management.
Thank you, Ruchira. We have 2 scenarios. I'm not sure whether we have time for 2 scenarios. And I will just explain. And at the same time, I would, encourage all the participants to share their thoughts on the chat about these scenarios. What do they think about this? And also the idea about scenarios is to practically think about what actually Ruchira is presenting as part of competencies. So now one scenario is about the poverty alleviation program. This is Sri Lanka. This is actual case, and there are some criteria to select beneficiaries in this program, poverty alleviation program. It is called Samurdhi in English, prosperous. The meaning is prosperous, and this particular project. So there is this poverty alleviation program, and you have a project, and this particular project wants to take same beneficiaries, right? But also you have understood that those beneficiaries who have been selected for the poverty alleviation program have been selected with some influence. Of course, it happens, right? There may be political influence, there may be other influences. So how do you consider taking those beneficiaries for your project also? Because this happens a lot in Sri Lanka actually now. When you say Samurdhi beneficiaries, they are of course from poor families, and then they get some support from the government. At the same time, some other organizations, NGOs, also consider giving support to the same beneficiaries. But you have to see whether these beneficiaries are selected and whether they are the correct beneficiaries for this program. And with some influence, although there are some criteria, with some influence, sometimes the beneficiaries who should be in the program are not the ones. So in this case, you may have different options to look at the criteria which has been used for the poverty alleviation program. At the same time, also see how it has practically happened, and also you may have a different one selected geographical area. You can also see how they have selected beneficiaries, and maybe you want to revisit the criteria and also revisit the list of beneficiaries and see how you want to select these beneficiaries out of the whole beneficiaries of the poverty alleviation program, how you select for your own program. Then you will have the exact beneficiaries you want to support. That's about the scenario. But if you have any particular suggestions, ideas about that, you can share in the chat bar. I'm sure this is not only in Sri Lanka, many other places. Definitely, these similar issues can be there. Ruchira, with available time, I'm not sure whether we can go to scenario 2. Ruchira?
Yes, Asela.
With the available time, I'm not sure whether we can go to scenario 2.
Yeah, better to look at the chat box and what are the queries we have from the audience. Yes.
Shall I move on to the Q&A session, Mr. Ruchira?
Yes, please.
Okay, next slide, Madhuka. So thank you, Mr. Ruchira, for your informative presentation, and program management is a very important skill for evaluators to know, and not besides technical knowledge, managing an evaluation project is critical for its success. So we have a few questions from our audience. The first question for you, Duraba is asking, professionalization is a good instrument to prepare emerging evaluators in the field of learning. However, it is not a panacea for all cure. It is equally necessary to development legal instruments so as to safeguard and prosper the profession. What do you think to authenticate some of the important professional norms, values, ethics, and practices through country-specific legal instruments? Ruchira? Mr. Ruchira?
Yes.
Or Mr.
Yeah,
Asela?
can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that is a very good question. I would take a part of the question, right. And then I will also invite. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, super. So yeah, it's not we don't say that we don't ever say professionalization is actually the panacea for all the if we have I would say the health issues we have in the evaluation profession. We are still a young and fledgling profession, but very promising, and we have come a long way. But we see with the research that has been done on this area, and also the work that has been done on this area, particularly on different strategic pillars of strength, like competence, that is what we are working on, and governance mechanisms, and also the capacities and demand. And I fully agree that that is, we don't say it's is also the only part. There can be other areas, or there can be other I would say the areas of strengths that we need to look at. For example, the creating the leadership in the profession, creating leaders who are actually instrumental in this profession forward. That is also there can be many other ways that we think of improve evaluation profession. So and the quality of evaluation as a whole. So fully agree. And we don't ever say we are trying through the competencies to uplift the standards of the evaluators through development competencies. But there are some other aspects like how do you take the lead in promoting and pushing your profession forward. So agree. And maybe Asela also with his expertise and also experience can share different viewpoints, I guess.
Thank you, Ruchira. Very quickly, I know that
Asela, you have 1 minute.
Yeah, very quickly. Now, thank you for the question. This is very valid. And just to add what Ruchira said, so there are two parts, I think, here in this question about ethics standards and also the legal instruments. I'm not sure whether we should, bring ethics standards, as legal instruments, but this is very important ethics standards for any profession. And as we discussed in the past webinars also, that evaluation is, an evolving profession. We need to have ethics standards established at the country level. And in Sri Lanka, we don't have. Most of the countries, normally, there are no ethics standards set up. But WOPES, if WOPES can take the lead in, developing these, that is very good, because when we talk about professionalization, these are essential instruments. We need to do that, but I'm still not sure whether we have it as legal instruments, but should have like other professions like lawyers, doctors, and engineers like that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Asela and Mr. Ruchira. Due to time constraints, we will move forward. Next slide, please. So now I welcome Ms. Udeshika Jayapali to give the closing remarks. She's the co-founder and co-leader of Evaluate Sri Lanka. Over to you, Udeshika.
Thank you, Randy. We have come to the end of a very interesting session, and we embrace this opportunity to thank Mr. Samandar Mahamudi, Vice President of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association and founder and chairman of the Board of Directors for African Evaluation Society. Mr. Samandar has given us the opening remarks with the value and importance of understanding, assessing, and enhancing capacities of evaluators to achieve the professionalization of evaluation. We would like to express our gratitude to our speakers, Mr. Ruchira Paranivithana, Certified Master Trainer, who actively contributed to build competency models, Theme Leader of Professionalization of Evaluation in Asia Pacific Regional Evaluation Strategy Formulation and Deployment, for disseminating his knowledge on performance criteria, competencies with indicative behaviors, and especially Mr. Asel Kalugampitiya, President, APEA and SLAVA, for sharing his knowledge and experience on scenario analysis and problem solving. Further, we wish to thank Mr. Randika Dimel, Board Member of Sri Lanka Evaluation Association and co-founder and co-leader of Evaluate Sri Lanka and Evaluate Asia, for moderating this webinar greatly. Before we close, it will be remiss of us if we fail to recognize that many persons and organizations that would have contributed to make this webinar a success. We would like to thank IRIPE and APEA for organizing this event. We wish to express our thanks to our organizing team and participants, and we'll look forward to see you in our next webinar. Thank you. Over to you, Randy.
Thank you, Deshika. Next slide, please. Okay, just to remind you all, this is a webinar series, and our next webinar, the webinar number 6 on the competency webinar series, exploring competency domain, interpersonal, it will focus on interpersonal competence, is on 25th September at 6:30 p.m. IST. Please mark your calendars, and we hope to see you all there. And also our professionalization consultation will be in a couple of weeks on September 2nd, Thursday at 5:30 p.m. IST. Production team, please put the link here so everyone can register. We hope to see all of you all take part actively in this consultation. Next slide. And also, APEA Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation and IPTAT is organizing a training program for parliamentarians and parliament research staff to be held between 18th October and 11th November. Please inform your parliamentarians and parliamentarian research staff about this training. The registration link is put here on the chat, and encourage your parliamentarians and parliament research staff to apply for this training. Next slide. So I would like to thank everyone for taking part in this webinar. The speaker, Mr. Ruchira, and Mr. Asela, and also Mr. Samandar for giving the opening remarks, and Ms. Sudeshika for the closing remarks. And thank you all participants for taking part, and thank you for being patient with us during this when we had some technical issues. See you all for the next webinar.
Thank you.
Good night.